Hi, and welcome to week 8 of the Bill Neeson's Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare, and with me is the coach, Bill Neeson. Coach, 4 in a row as we go take care of business with Greenville on Friday night by a final score of 38-6. Nice win for the Indians as we get win 2 into our division. 5-2 overall, 2-0 in the division.
Yeah.
Things just keep going our way.
Well, I think Friday night was a big win for us, and I think we got a lot of momentum going in the right direction. And it was just one of those games where everything was going well for us. They had a couple, bad luck situations that didn't go well for them, and our confidence level continues to grow every week. We went through that 2-week period where we were a little down, a little this, and I think our confidence levels continuing to grow, and that's good because as the season progresses, the competition is getting harder.
We don't talk a lot about statistics, and maybe there are some people out there who wish we did talk about statistics more, but the one statistic that does jump off the page is we scored 31 points in the second quarter, and quite a bit by the defensive side with the ball. We've talked a lot about offense here the last couple of weeks. We have talked about defense, but boy, did our defense shine Friday night.
I think they did. I think, we were able to, it was one of those, the quick good news, bad news deal. The bad news was we got down to the 1-yard line and we couldn't score. And then the good news was immediately, we hit a couple blitzes and we were able to get 2 points out of that. So that was good. And then, the 2 interceptions were phenomenal. And it's nice to see, not only do we get an interception, but I love it when those kids get out there and block for each other and then turn around and try to find somebody on a good clean hit and see if we can get the ball in the end zone. And that happened on both occasions.
You talk about things that, we didn't score on the goal line. If we were playing our best football in week 8, we probably would be a little concerned. I mean, that's part of things that we're part of getting better and trying to clean up. And I'm sure there was things that I know that we talked about in the second half that we need to get better at offensively and defensively. But at end, what you talked about, the guys have each other's back. They really are looking for one another, and they're not interested in individual stats. You got a group of guys out that are genuine happy really for one another.
Yeah, that's true, and I think we did have there was a couple things offensively we struggled with. I thought our passing game was very crisp. I thought our passing game is probably as good as it looked in a while. I think the run game struggled a little bit just because of the fact that they have a pretty good defense. They have a couple of kids that are all league over there, and we struggled to get a helmet on a couple of them on occasion. But overall, when you play a defense like that, if you're able to put those points and get a running clock, I think that's good.
Well, the fact that I think sometimes that score is a little deceiving because Greenville is a very good football team.
They are,
and
they
don't be
definitely
surprised if they go into the rest of the league and do some damage in terms of the wins.
The thing about Greenville is Greenville truly takes it, and I've been watching Coach Schaefer, for a while, over there. They take it once a week, one game a week, literally, meaning that they could be, they could lose maybe 2, 3, have some bad luck, but the following week they'll go out and play some great football. It's not like that they ever have kids that are saying, well, let's just get this over with and let's get basketball season started. They could be 0-9 and they could be so dangerous week 10, it's unbelievable. So I look for, I look for those guys to come back and do some good things.
Yeah, culture-wise, they definitely, I think he's done a good job of establishing that tone. And as I said last week, Graduate, I think, has set that culture that, hey, we've still got a lot to play for.
Yeah, I think I think that, that's a sign of a good coach to be able to, keep things going a little bit sometimes when things are going bad.
Go back to the defense, and one other stat that I thought was pretty staggering. We held them to under 100 yards, total yards, as a stat for a team. Again, our defense just really was really in a groove, really found a good job. Of course, obviously, you talk about coaching, but, hey, we just made plays when we needed to make plays.
I think they did. I think our tackling was crisp. I think we did a nice job of getting off blocks, and, there was a lot of good things. One of the biggest things that I was happy with is the fact our 2 corners, Hunter Hawk and Bushnell, had an outstanding game. I think between them, they both ended up and maybe had 4 or 5 tackles, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but neither one of them had a missed tackle. Neither one of them had a ball go over their head. And for a high school corner, that's what we ask. We ask those 2 things, and I know both guys had a great opportunity in the open field to come out and tackle 33, and they were able to get him on the ground. So I thought that was a big plus for our defense to have those 2 guys performing.
Talking about the theme of sticking to that theme of one game at a time, now we transition into our last regular season game on the road where we will travel to Vandalia Butler in game 8. We talk about every game being important and we take one at a time. Vandalia Butler coming off a tough loss with Troy. But this team is dangerous, and they have a lot of weapons.
They have a lot of the same kids that played against us last year when we lost the game in the big rainstorm, and they returned that kickoff for a not for a touchdown. It went down to the 2-yard line, but eventually they scored. A lot of those same kids are back, including that kid that ran that ball back. And so he's our feature back this year. So we've got a lot of things that we've got to get ready for with them. They've got a good arsenal on offense. They play sound defense. They're a very well coached team. So we've got a lot of stuff that we got to deal with this weekend.
Speaking of coach, you got a new coach this year. So how does that change for what we see? Obviously, you have 7 games of tape to look at, potential tape to look at. Looking at last year's tape versus this year's tape, how much different is this Butler team that Pick was going to see Friday night going to be?
Well, they're different. They're different scheme-wise. Their defensive personnel is different because they lost some people on defense, and scheme-wise they're a little bit different. Offensively, they're a lot different. So we were able to look at some film from the previous year, from different places, and then also all the games we have this year and everything. So we've got at least an idea of schematically what's happening.
From our standpoint, what is it? What's the message that we continue to go with in the locker room, in our team meetings this week, as we put 4 in a row? And I hear you say we just take one game at a time, 1 week at a time. Obviously, you're seeing the confidence grow. They're starting to find their identity. They're starting to believe that we're a team to be contenders with, regardless of what our scenario was a few weeks ago. This is our team. This is who we are. What's the message as we continue to move into Butler Week 8?
Well, that message is one of the things we got to do. When you say you got to go a week at a time, we got to clean the slate every weekend. We got to clean that slate and start over again. And one of the biggest examples we use is just the New England Patriots. They were a week earlier. They had been shut out on offense for the first time since I think in the 90s, and that was probably the lowest point they had. And then a week later they come out and I know they have their quarterback back, but a week later they come out and they got 400 yards of just passing offense. You look at a team like Michigan State that have now lost 3 in a row. That who would ever thought that at the beginning of the year? You never would have thought that Notre Dame would lose a game to an opponent. So the point being is, it doesn't matter who you are, you have to clean the slate and start over again, rebuild. So Friday night, it all seems fresh. And the hard part is, and not really with these guys, but the hard part is for coaches is to convince those kids that what we did last week has no bearing on performance this week. Yes, we got better, but on any given week you can come out and a team can punch in the mouth quick. A team can do this, a team can do this, and the next thing you know, teams don't come out flat. They don't come out and say, hey, we just don't feel like playing. What happens is adversity happens and they don't respond because they're not ready. They're not ready to respond to the adversity, so it seems like the team's flat. But everybody's always ready to play. It's just a matter of who's ready to respond if something bad happens.
The clear thing that comes out of what we have seen from the Indians is they respect their opponent. They do not look ahead. And I'm sure that's the same message that is going on with you guys this year. Because as we have had to regroup, many people have mentioned, hey, what's this new magic formula that's going on? And there's no magic formula, is there? It's us with the guys that we have and doing what we do and doing it to the best of our abilities.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the magical formula is a simple formula that nobody really wants to hear about because it's not a magical formula. And we're simply doing things, continuing to do the little things, the little details that add up to big things. We've established a culture a while ago of how we want to do things, and you use that during tough times. And we used it during tough times, and it's got us through.
Speaking of formula, we have not had this conversation this year. We did quite a bit last year. This is about the time where we start having that conversation about looking at the playoff picture week by week by week. When you look at the playoff picture in our region, we are 5-2, and it looks like we are at the 10th position a little as the top. They take the top 8 teams into the playoffs. There is a lot of football to be played. I think if I remember correctly, when we sat here at Week 8, we were going into Trotwood, and we had 3 games left, and there was a lot of things that happened in 3 weeks. So there's a lot to happen here. Yeah. As a coach and trying to keep those guys focused, we've talked about where you're not afraid to talk about those things. You're one of the few coaches out there that, hey, that's not a hex. I know you've got your eyes on it. How much do you guys talk about that with your team, and how much conversation are they having amongst themselves about that?
You know, I don't think they're having a whole lot of conversation right now about it, because I think right now, last year we had to use it, more of a motivator, because we were up and down, and, and we knew. I think this year we're rolling a little bit. I think this year we haven't really talked about it a whole lot. I don't know if it's time yet. It'll be time soon. But right now, the only thing we need to do is we need to win that 5th game in a row, and we need to be 6-2. And if we get to, hopefully if we get to be 6-2, that might be time to talk about it. It might not be. We'll have to, so we'll have to wait and see. Every team's a little different. And as to when you want to jump in and put the jumper cables on, when you want to slow things down back and forth. And so we're in a good spot right now, and we just want to leave it as it is, and we just haven't talked a whole lot about it.
The pace that we are at is certainly we're playing a good team Friday night that in all probably intents and purposes they feel like they're still making a run. We are very relevant, if you like. I know you like to use that word quite a bit. Very relevant game for Friday for both teams, and I'm sure them coming off of a tough loss to Troy, and it's their final home game of the season. I'm sure they're going to be ready to go. And see
definitely, and anybody that wins in the GWOC North, anybody that wins, we win the last 2-3 games, that's going to put you in the spot. That's just the way the league is, and so I'm sure they're thinking the same thing we are thinking, and so we'll see, go down there, and hopefully we'll be able to play some good football.
Well, we've had certainly quite a few battles with the Aviators through the years, and I know Friday night will be no different. We'll look forward to going down and look to get number 5 in a row and up our record to 6-2. But Coach, before we move on to the second half of the show, Caleb Patton is our featured senior this year. Talk a little bit about Caleb. Obviously a great young man who's a guy that had been on the field, had his head up and down, and had some injuries, but a young man who really is what I would consider, quote unquote, a team guy.
Definitely, he's been in our program, and we just love the way the kid performs, and he has been. Last year I thought it was going to be his breakout year, and he ends up and breaks his leg, and it took a while to come back from that, and it was a tough injury. And he's back this year. He's bigger, he's stronger. He's been able to work in the weight room, and we're able to run our reverses with him. We're able to get the ball to him, because I think like I said before, our passing game is a little bit more consistent than we've seen in a while. So I think for all those reasons, he's become a vital part of the story. And the best thing about him is he's been patient. He probably wanted to play last year a little bit more than he did, and I think he was a little frustrated sometimes that he couldn't contribute, because of the injury and so forth and so on, and he got a little bit behind. But he never let it, get him down. He never came in here with a bad attitude. Never came in here with, bad body language, bad posture, or anything like that. Came in here only trying to help us get better, whatever he can. Asked him to play a little defense, this year. Said no problem. We asked him to be on some special teams. No problem. Whatever, usually every time I say something to him, he says, "Whatever you guys think." Whatever you guys think.
Well, those are great kids to have around.
Great, especially
great leadership.
Yes, it's great by example that he's able to do that for us, and so we appreciate the fact that he actually, a guy that smart actually respects what I think. I think right there, that's kind of a compliment.
Well, Coach, thanks for your time, and we certainly wish you and the Indians luck as we go down to Vandalia. It probably, I think, outside of city, is going to be our shortest trip since we've had so many longer trips. So it'll be a little nicer. We guys will have a little more time after school. Coach, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Guys, we're going to be back for the second half with Caleb Patton, and we're going to talk a little bit about homecoming court. We'll be right back. Welcome to the second half of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Herron. With us is wide receiver and defensive back, senior number 4, Caleb Patton. Caleb, thanks for joining us today on the Bill Neese's Coaches Show.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, Caleb, we are going into week 8. This is October. This is I guess it's all fun, but this really gets into the meat of the season, coming off of a 4-game win streak, going into the last regular season away game of the year against Butler. Where are you right now, and how you think the season's gone, first as a team and then 2 individually?
Individually, it's been a little bit of a struggle. I guess I had a little bit of an injury that was really annoying, I guess. It was a thing of, like, I wanted to be back to play, obviously. It's my senior year. I want to be there for my team. I've been playing with them my whole life. But it was more of just getting through it, and I kind of sat out for a little bit just because I didn't feel like if I could play up to my full potential, I should have somebody in there who could do a little bit better than me. As a team, though, I think like we started off a little bit slow. No, not with Meadowdale, obviously, but we have constantly gotten better and better, and we've put in a lot of work over the season, and the long practices and everything, and all the work that we've done has really helped us out a lot. And this, towards the end of the season, really, it will be the most important part because it's the bulk of our GWalk teams that we play, and I think we'll do just fine against them, and we've been getting better and playing way better as the season's gone on. So.
You said a couple of things that I think really speaks to your character. One, you talk about the individual sacrifice that, hey, you know, I want to be out there, but I also know there's some people out there that probably can, you know, are a little more healthier and at this point in time have been able to get some things done in terms of statistic-wise. And as you know, sometimes playing time is driven by statistics, particularly at your position. For you to be able to, that's, we hear about our coaches talking about humility. That's a great example of humility. But I also know that you continue to work hard, and as you get yourself back in the round of health, you never know when that number is going to be called and have to go in a game, make a big play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always got to be ready. And I came back for the West Carrollton game. I dressed and everything, and I mean, I didn't know if I was going to play, but either way, I still wanted to be there and support my team and everything. And if I got my number called and I was supposed to go back in, then I'm ready. I mean, I always want to be ready for my team because if they need someone, I want to be there for them.
Great attitude to have. And, you know, we talk about the Indians after that two-game losing skid that we had against Trotwood and Franklin. You know, we've now been on a roll where we've put 4 together, and we're 5-2 going into week 8. You talk about how this team has really been able to overcome injuries and challenges, and you know it's hard to replace a Darian Tips Clemens, but what I'm hearing you say is we've had guys understand what their roles are and accept those new roles, and as a team we've really taken that challenge and gotten better week after week after week.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we lost some big players. We lost a lot of just really important parts of the team, and what it really comes down to is the person that's behind that the player that we lost, obviously, they have to be willing to step up, and if that person isn't willing to, someone has to. And it's more of finding that person, giving them an opportunity to get better, to be able to fill in that position.
You're seeing maturities, ladies and gentlemen. That's really what athletics is. It's about growing, and sometimes it's not in the way we want to on the field, but it's sometimes off the field. And Caleb, we appreciate your perspective. Real quick as we move forward, and want to talk real quick about, you talked about the bulk of the GWalk. That's kind of it. Regardless of the position you're at or where you're at in playing time, being a part on the team of something so exciting that, you know, we're in a bulk of a potential playoff run and a potential division title in the league, that's got to be exciting to be a part of, and to be a senior leader of that says a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And I wouldn't say potential. I say we're definitely going to the playoffs this year. I know it. I feel it, and I don't want to go out not going to the playoffs as a senior. So it's definitely going to be a lot of fun, but I'm not going to say it's not going to be a challenge, because it's not just going to be a simple just walk through. We're going to make
a lot of football to be played.
We will,
and
but
it starts this week at Butler.
Yeah.
And good perspective. Let us move though a little bit. Where are we going to be a year from now? You and I were talking about before the show. You reminded me a conversation that you and I had last spring about your major, and tell the community what you're looking at majoring in.
I'd like to major in biomedical engineering.
Now, for those people that don't know what biomedical engineering is, just briefly describe what that is.
It can go into a lot of things. So if you've seen like an X-ray machine or MRI machine, that's something that they develop. What I want to go into particularly is developing different prosthetics for just different people. So say someone loses an arm, I'm the guy who designs that arm. Basically is a simple way of putting it.
Yeah, good. You not only have to be smart, but you got to be creative, and you've got to be willing to be outside the box thinker.
Yes, definitely.
What schools are we looking at this point in time?
Case Western is my #1 school right now. I've looked into Miami, I've looked at Kent State. I sent an application to them and they accepted me, so that's a good college to go to as well.
Congratulations.
And Ohio State's on there too. I'm really just looking to go to college, and if I can get into college, I can get into college. It doesn't matter where I have to go.
Caleb, I think with your grades and your background, and certainly your intelligence, and I think you're going to be highly successful, and I'm sure the gift And the game of football has probably helped you in your discipline and your structure for the next phase of your journey and next phase of your life.
Yeah, it really has. It's taught me to, just work hard in every situation that you get. And it's going to get tough at times. And there are going to be times where you're not going to want to practice per se, or you're not going to want to do your homework or work on stuff, or just do stuff because you're just lazy, you're tired or something, you're just not feeling like doing it. But what it all comes down to is if you want to be successful, you got to be willing to do the things that you don't want to do per se, or be willing to work harder than everyone else.
Caleb, I'd be remiss if I did not mention before we close the show out, last week was homecoming week and you were on the homecoming court.
Yeah.
What an experience that was. Talk a little bit about what that was like to be on homecoming court, voted by your peers to be on that group, and it was a week full of different festivities, and certainly Friday night you were in the locker room as while some of the ceremonies was going on, but Saturday night they crowned the king, and you were a part of that whole experience. What, just from beginning to end, what was that like?
It's kind of, I guess I am a little bit nervous at the moment just to see if I can get king. I'm a little anxious to see if I won or not. It's not like a thing of, oh, I didn't win, so I hate that person for the rest of my life. But it's been a really cool experience, and just to know that people think that I'm that nice or anything about me to want to vote me onto homecoming court is really nice of people, and it's good to know that other people think of me that way. So it's been a really fun experience. Homecoming was a lot of fun, and definitely showed a lot of my dance moves off.
Yes, he's got a dance move that is unbelievable. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to Facebook and look up Homecoming 2016 PHS Court. You'll see him and some of his teammates. They're pretty light on your feet. Caleb, thank you so much, and we certainly wish
Thank
you
you
luck
for
the rest of
having
the season, absolutely, and we know why this young man's very successful. This will wrap up the Week 8 of the Bill Neeses Coaches Show. Remember, on Friday night is the last road regular season game of the 2016 season when the Indians travel to Vandalia to play on the Vandalia Butler Aviators in a 7 o'clock kickoff. Thanks so much for being here. We will see you next week for the Bill Neeses Coaches Show. For Caleb Patton, I'm Chip Hare. See you next week.